So Jamie Dimon, the CEO over at JP Morgan, is saying the banking crisis is not over and will have repercussions for years to come. I want to go over this and the daily news, and let's jump right in. So you can see here, right? Banking crisis not over. He's also saying here, too, that regulations stoke the banking turmoil. Basically, this is a letter that he wrote, and it's long. They talk about AI, talk about banking regulations, these kind of things. And it give all kinds of things regarding the banks. There's one particular statement that I want to read to you guys here. It says, as I write this letter, the current crisis is not over yet. Even when it is behind us, there will be repercussions for years to come. But importantly, recent events are nothing like what occurred during the 2008 global financial crisis. So he's saying not as bad as '08, which barely affected regional banks. In '08, the trigger was recognition that $1 trillion of consumer mortgages were to go bad and that they were owned by various entities around the world. At that time, enormous leverage virtually everywhere in the financial system, major investment banks, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, nearly all savings and loan investment institutions, off-balance sheet vehicles, the AIG, and banks around the world, all of them failed. The current banking crisis involves fewer financial players and fewer issues that need to be resolved. So he's trying to, have some more calm. Don't worry, it's not as bad as '08. But it was interesting, though, he talked about regulations and was saying, essentially, we need more bank stress regulations, which I agree with. It doesn't necessarily say, we need, regulations on everything across the board, because obviously he's a bank CEO. And also, too, you may not know this, but these kind of people, the bank CEOs, they're the ones who are essentially writing the regulations with the government. So we'll keep an eye on this. Again, he doesn't think it's over yet. Today, as of recording, the market was mixed, but mostly down. I think the only sectors that were up were utilities, communications. Everything else was down, led by industrials. You can take a look at the heat map here. Amazon was up a bit. Tesla was down again today. I still think it's overvalued. Meta was up a bit, and then you had the banks were falling. Maybe on JP Morgan's comment said, hey, maybe regulations are okay. I don't think banks like that. If you want to look at bond yields, so the 3-month at 4.77, 10-year, just kind of give a contrast, at 3.35. So we still have an inversion, which would signal recession. We've been talking about it, and we'll see as we track these numbers together. If you want to look at what the Fed may or may not be doing, there's a 50-50 chance, basically. They're saying 55-45, but yeah, 50-50 basically at this point, toss-up, whether or not the Fed in their next meeting will either raise rates by 25 basis points or just keep it the way that it is. So 50-50 shot, it's kind of what the market's predicting. Trump pleads not guilty today, 34 felony counts, falsifying business and hush money. So I will go over this when I get a chance to read through the whole thing. I'll do that in a separate video, but I do acknowledge that it is happening. And of course, you got to mention a little bit, but not too much in this particular one. This is an interesting one. You guys probably will see this, more corruption stuff in banks. So Signature Bank insiders sold $100 million in stock during the crypto surge. And this is sort of what, is irritating to many people is if indeed we, bail out these kind of banks, and yet, execs can sell into stock, etc., before the crash and essentially walk away with literally millions. Not so great from our perspective, right? And you can see here one of the problems of banks is, this is a Signature here, for example, they have a ton of uninsured deposits and just a very little bit of insured ones. And SVB was up on that list as well. And, this is sort of what you want to keep an eye on. Now, what's been happening is, and you guys know as we talk about it, is essentially people are moving their money out of these kind of banks, regional banks, and putting them in essentially like JP Morgan and the big ones. I'm not a fan of the big banks, to be perfectly frank. I do prefer the smaller banks, but I completely understand for the big money, you got to go where you feel the most safe because you want to make payroll, you want to pay the bills, these kind of things. And big money, companies, they got to use banks as well. But however, yes, the whole system would be more healthy if we had a mix, not just a few big players running the show. So we'll keep an eye on that. This was the other big news today. Finland joins NATO. I was surprised, actually. They've been talking about it for a while, but I didn't realize it was going to happen now, which is essentially what's going on. And obviously Russia's not happy. So just a reminder, Finland's here. The next one that could join would be Sweden, which would be right here. So we'll see that may or may not occur in July. So keep an eye on that. And one of the things that you can take a look at here is a sort of a map of who's in NATO, who's not in NATO. So basically Western Europe is in NATO, as you guys can see. And then one of the sticky points of essentially the war in Ukraine is that Ukraine keeps asking to join, but they're not yet a member. If they were, chances are Russia would not have attacked. And if Ukraine were to essentially join now, it would compel all the NATO, countries to fight Russia. So this is sort of where we're at. But yes, Finland, who's right on the border right here, you guys can see, has joined. The Kremlin, this is a couple weeks ago, they were saying war against NATO and Ukraine is for future generations. So I think they're debating, even signaling, we're not going to mess with NATO. And they shouldn't. There's no way they're going to beat NATO in a conventional war. I want to stress that because you never know with Putin and what he's thinking over there. One of the things that I saw recently too is that a Russian blogger was I think it was like an explosion. They were killed in a cafe. What does it say here? Yeah, it was died in a bomb blast in St. Petersburg. So it's very, very unfortunate. And you guys know this as well. There was a American journalist from the Wall Street Journal was essentially taken by the Russians. My personal opinion on this is probably going to try to use him to do some sort of prisoner trade, these sort of things. But this is concerning. I am a big proponent of, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, these kind of things. And I think it's important for people to be able to just use the internet freely. So, you don't want to see these kind of things to where if someone's blogging something that someone doesn't like, that, their life is at risk. Also, too, we're going to be, I guess, the U.S. that is sending $2.2 billion in new aid to Ukraine. I say this all along, and people are asking me what's the kind of stuff I like. I think the defense industry is always going to make money. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans; they're going to make money. And indeed, we're sending more, aid over there. I don't know how popular this is going to be during a recession, right? Where people are like, hey, gas prices are going up. OPEC just cut. Why are you sending money over there? Now, it is what it is. Like I said, it doesn't matter to me. I don't think, I think Democrats and Republicans are both going to fund the military. So, you just be aware of that. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. I've seen it for years. It'll happen again. Is it happening now? One thing that is not happening, though, is that people are not buying apartment buildings. So evidently sales have dropped 74%. That is the most in 14 years. And these essentially the multifamily buildings. You guys can see this for yourself. This is the chart. So this is, what is this? Multifamily building sales by total dollar volume. So it really peaked here. That was sort of like during the pandemic. And you remember that for a while, there was a lot of essentially cash purchases of these kind of, again, multifamily buildings. And one of the things that is happening now is there are fewer buyers, right? So less people are buying these things, less people are using cash to buy said buildings, and the prices are going down. This is good news for people in the rent market because essentially if the big money can't buy up all of these things, they can't control the market, right? Because essentially, think of it this way, if one person essentially buys up all of the apartment complexes, then they can set rents to wherever they want. Now, evidently, which is really interesting, some of these markets, like your Dallas, Phoenix, and Tampa, they are essentially unregulated in terms of rent control, these kind of things. And I guess some of these were going up 20% here, which is unreal. And I wanted to ask you guys, the community, because this is sort of why I always say all the time, I don't know everything, and I love to hear input from the community. So in this example, this was a thing that was saying, these 10 states have the worst rent control laws, and let's go over which 10 states they are. And I'll be curious if you guys agree or disagree, because I just don't know. So they were saying Arkansas, Virginia, Louisiana, Georgia, these are bad places for rent control laws and essentially maybe not good places for renters. The basic idea is that, the landlords can do whatever they want and raise rent to whatever they want. I guess, Wyoming, North Carolina, Idaho, and Ohio, again, not good places for renters. And another one, Mississippi and Colorado. So again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on these. If you live in any of these places or ever rented in any of these places, do you feel like they can just do whatever they want and they can just raise rent, whatever? Now you can kind of get my my political leanings on these kind of things. I'm totally fine with rent control. I think that's something that, essentially regulations keep sort of the balance in place. I believe in balance. It doesn't mean you should overregulate. It doesn't mean you should underregulate. The same way with the banks. I just feel like there should be balance. And one thing I always tell people, and I've been teaching this for years, if people were angels, no government would be necessary. And the basic idea is that in a completely free market, It's not really free because the big money usually takes over, and that's essentially why you have to do these kind of things. And in this case, if in a completely unregulated free real estate market, it would just be, rent would be like through the moon, et cetera. And yes, there would be a divisible hand. Yes. However, it's also true if someone controls all the property, right? They can do whatever they want. So this is sort of why you want some regulations for protections for everyone, not just for landlords, but also for renters. Like I also believe that some states are too lenient on, say, squatter rules, meaning that if someone's not paying the rent, landlords do need some ability to kick people out. But again, you got to balance these things. So I'd be curious your thoughts on this, rent laws in the 10 states that we mentioned and what you guys think about that. So please chime in. Also, too, we've been talking about this quite a bit. I warn you guys, and someone wrote in the comments recently, when they watch the news, they watch YouTube, they feel a bit more sort of like nervous and sad about the world. I hope I don't necessarily, give you that impression. I want you to more be knowledgeable and be armed and sort of be prepared for things, not necessarily like scared, just be prepared. And no, I'm not selling you anything to get prepared. Like as I always tell you, many channels say, oh, the sky is falling, buy my umbrella. I'm not doing that whatsoever. I'm trying to give you information to educate you. So my opinion on this is the more educated you are, the less sort of, freaked out you will be, because you will understand what's going on and you won't be surprised by things. So for example, you can see here, U.S. job openings fall to the lowest level in 2 years. I've been telling about this since last year to prepare for job cuts and layoffs, to be prepared, right? So like you're getting your feelers out there, you're sort of like asking around, for other opportunities in case you need to leave your company, these kind of things. I think that's part of being prepared. So again, I want to help you be prepared, not be freaked out. There's a big difference there. And actually the Bloomberg put out some really good charts in this. So evidently UBS is going to be one of the big layoff places. We talked about that, and they had some really, sort of good way to illustrate that. So yes, tech has been firing the most. You can see here, that's the big pink one. We also have financials, consumer discretionary, but really it's all sectors. And the one that sort of was alarming was when McDonald's announced that they were going to be closing offices Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and essentially telling people not to come into work, and that they were going to basically find out via email or otherwise that we don't need your services anymore. So I thought that was a bit alarming, to be really frank. I just think that's a weird precedent to send people and how to treat people. And again, it's all industries right now, but yes, tech is leading. In terms of particular companies, Amazon, is firing, even IKEA, which actually I didn't even know that. Well, I didn't know that actually. This is a live show. Real estate, so companies in China, real estate companies are firing. Goldman Sachs, UBS, Credit Suisse is the leader there in terms of layoffs. Meta, Accenture is a big one. 19,000 jobs over Accenture are being cut. And I remember hearing that McKinsey was also cutting, which they don't really do that. They usually don't fire at all. But they are on also too, Salesforce, Microsoft, et cetera, Alphabet, which is Google. A lot of companies, it's not just tech. And that's why I'm showing you guys these things. And like I said, I don't want to scare you. I want you to just be prepared in case it happens to you. I thought it was an interesting one. So you got FedEx on the list here, but Royal Mail, and for those of you in the UK, I'm pretty sure this refers to the UK. I'm sure it does. I'd just be curious, like, how is your like mail working? Is it working? Is it slow? I don't know. Someone mentioned in the comments just a couple of days ago that if you do want to get a job, it was the UPS, the kind of loader people, not the drivers. But I guess they're always hiring, is what someone was saying. But there's always turnover because I guess it's probably a tough job. We'll see here. This is kind of a list of all the companies of recently. There's a top 20 that is. There's 240,000 jobs here, and like UBS is leading the way in terms of, and that's UBS / Credit Suisse now in terms of layoffs, and then Amazon, Meta. And remember, like, say Amazon during the pandemic, it seemed like they couldn't hire enough people. I remember seeing signs like everywhere that Amazon was hiring, and this is something that my wife always threatens me, like, you better get a job at Amazon, et cetera. It's more of a threat, if the YouTube stuff doesn't pan out. But she always makes jokes around it. But evidently, I can joke with her back. Well, even Amazon's not hiring, so it is what it is. This is something that, as well as Amazon is actually firing in the gaming division 100 employees, and this is something that I, a bit saddened by, to be really frank. So I like games. I don't talk about games all day, every day on this channel, but I do like them. And I'm on Apple, and you may not know, Apple doesn't game as well as PC or even as like an Xbox or a PlayStation. And for me, it would be fantastic if I could just play on my phone or play on my Apple, any game out there. And so this is sort of, if you don't know, these sort of streaming things, the idea is that you have a remote computer, and then essentially you just get the sort of information from said remote computer through the internet. And we have fast internet here in Korea, and the idea that I don't have to like upgrade my hardware all the time would be absolutely fantastic. So I hope this cloud gaming stuff is continuing and not just experimental and put it off for another 2 years. I would like it to come ASAP. But with all these layoffs, many of these types of sort of ventures by companies will essentially be ceased. So the R&D sort of stuff and new technology. And we talked about that before yesterday, where many storage sales are going to have less new products because companies are less willing to innovate right now. So anyway, that's what's going on in the daily news. I'll do an update on the Trump stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these stories that we talked about. And please chime in on the rent control things in those 10 states. Love to hear your thoughts on that. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.